Up next, it's going to be CNZ and Spart1e. Welcome back, everybody, to week number 8, stage 4, Quake Pro League. Well, my name's Ketchup, and I'm joined by ZSX. This matchup, I mean, there's really no getting around the fact that it's two players that they haven't had the most successful run in stage 4, but now at least going head-to-head, it's the opportunity for one of them to secure a win at last.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of both these players, and in all honesty, I felt Spart1e's been incredibly unlucky quite a lot of the time, that he's been so close to taking maps and even series away from top players, and just falling at the final hurdle. So he does feel like someone that's right up there that can take the leap on, and we know Spart1e's a great player. Whereas CNZ, since he's come back, he's been stable, hasn't set the world alight. And I think even if we go back to stage 2 when he got relegated, I think it was against Base, and he was incredibly unlucky. Actually, going into that, I was favouring him at the time, and we've seen Base's trajectory ever since then. Just filled of confidence has come on levels. So CNZ's got it in his locker. I think just needs to regain that confidence for me.
I think it's definitely two players that are good. You know, they're two players that are very hard to pick against, in the sense of, especially someone like Spart1e, who is, like you quite rightly pointed out, he's able to get maps. If you check some of these recent results throughout the course of the weeklies, both of these players are able to get maps on the absolute best players out there, and it's just unfortunate that neither of them have been able to get the victory, you know, where they're almost there. Yeah. And especially Spart1e, he's almost been there so many times, yet here he is. Just if you're looking at wins alone, he's one of our more unsuccessful players, which is really unfortunate to say about him, because he does some great stuff.
But it's a big chance for one of these players to open up a nice gap on that relegation area, because the points at this end of the leaderboard really do matter when you don't want to be going into the stage 4 finals on the brink of being relegated. So there is quite a lot of pressure here, because going up in 16th and 18th in the leaderboards, you can relieve some serious pressure on yourself by getting some points today.
It's one of those things where the objective is I must 3-0, because...
And I think both of them will be looking at this thinking, this is a 3-0.
Yeah.
I can do this, because it's not every week where you go up with someone that you probably feel you got the edge on. Like, some weeks you're going up against Cypher, the next week it's Kilson, it's Raze. You're like, okay, let's just strategize, maybe get one map or something like that. But I know for a fact both these players will be looking at this thinking, I can 3-0 this guy.
Well, on the note of that, we're going into our picks and bans. Awoken first with the Ranger versus the Galena, and then it's Blood Covenant with the Visor and the Nyx, and then finally Molten Fools. I feel like CNZ and Molten Fools, we see him play on this map so many times, and it is going to be our final map of this set, and it's going to be Strog versus the Ison. But I think you're right, ZSX. It's one of those things where you need that 3-0 win. It's just the leaderboard alone. Both of these players, if you can 3-0, you mean that the other player gets no points, and you get a massive injection of your own. It's best case scenario, and a 2-1 either way is going to kind of be a little bit more, because it's just not going to be as impactful, and you have to make an impact this week.
Yeah, if Spart1e, for instance, gets a 3-0, he could push himself up to almost 14th on the leaderboard, and then he's sitting pretty, whereas CNZ then is really struggling, particularly if someone down in the bottom, maybe like a G-Nick, picks up a couple of points here and there. He might find himself in a lot of trouble.
As we now go into what we think things might go, I mean, if I were to, because I know you said both players are in a position where they're probably confident. They have to be confident going into this, because of the demand of the 3-0, I suppose. But if I were to put you on the spot, ZSX, and give you a prediction, who do you think has the edge?
I'm going to say Spart1e 2-1. I don't know if that's a heart or a head prediction, It's a tough one. I honestly think they're very evenly matched, and CNZ is more stable, but Spart1e has higher highs, so...
I'm looking at his picks too. The kind of picks that Spart1e's gone in with, they're the kind of picks, especially when even on this first map where it's the Ranger on Awoken. We did just see the kind of specific plays you can make with a Ranger on a map like this. And Spart1e is often the kind of player that can pick those champions that help those high highs, those definitely heart on his sleeve decisions where if it works out, that was just the most godlike play ever. But sometimes it doesn't, and you're almost left questioning it, and that's quite classic for Spart1e at this point, where it can just be quite heartbreaking, some of those losses because of that. But if he thinks that play is the right thing to do at that time, he will do it, and he has the confidence to follow it through to the end, for better or worse.
None of those picks really stand out. I think Blood Covenant Visor versus Nyx is obviously a nostalgic matchup, and it's a very good match for Nyx. Whereas maybe Ison versus Strog on the final map on Molten, Strog is definitely for me a much stronger champion on that map than Ison. So that's the only one I would definitely side with Spart1e for, but I'm not saying that he's gonna win that map just in terms of pick alone. I think it's slightly more effective. The rest of them, as we've known, fairly standard. So yeah, I think just based on form, I'm going to stick with my 2-1.
It looks like we're now loading into Awoken anyway, so we should be there in about a minute's time or so. But just to really remind everyone the importance of this matchup, two players that are incredibly close to each other on the leaderboard. Both players really, unfortunately unable to secure a series victory in this stage for the most part, but they have got maps. They've taken maps versus absolute world-class talent, and it definitely solidifies why they're in the Pro League, but this is an opportunity for either side to finally secure an important win. And we'll see how this one's going to go. Checking things out from Spart1e's point of view first. He's going to get Mega Side. And this is that classic Awoken start. Who's going to get that first play? That first big win. Now, as we can see from CNZ's time, a little bit of self-damage, unfortunately, but at least there's the totems. We've not really touched on Galena, the strength on this map, where you can very much hold one part of a map if you're playing your cards right. Very often we can see Galena's really try and prioritize holding armor side. Yeah, that's a great shot.
Oh, what rockets, though, from CNZ as Spart1e's in a little bit of trouble here. Got no weapons to work with. But the Tri-Bolt might all be he needs. Oof.
Those missed shots might come back to haunt him, unfortunately.
Needs a rocket badly, but CNZ's done a good job so far of isolating that weapon, meaning Spart1e needs to retreat, can't be caught in any sort of open ground. That's exactly what CNZ wants to do. He knows his opponent hasn't got that weapon, but the Tri-Bolt, not enough. It was great, but not enough.
It's another one of those cases where the frag lands at just the right time. The Heavy's now going to get taken quite happily. This Tri-Bolt from Spart1e's been really good so far. Enough to keep CNZ away. Oh, good shot on the rail, though. Spart1e's got to be very careful here. The orb's not ready. Oh, the rail misses its mark. Would have been a kill shot. That one will be a 2-0 for CNZ. And just perfect for him. Trying to shut down the totem and giving his position away and being distracted for that opening rail. CNZ now with 3-0 in just under 2 minutes. A great start. He's going to push in. A big push, and it's likely to get punished by Spart1e. Wait a minute. Somehow Spart1e hasn't seized it. That frag took a very long time.
How did he miss so many rockets with 5 health?
That's, if anything, good that Spart1e at least eventually got it. That's the kind of frag, I think, that definitely would have upset him. Okay, Spart1e with some control here and an opportunity. CNZ kind of just running himself into death right there.
I think he meant to jump to the other platform. Instead, he missed his jump. At the moment, CNZ is quite happy for Spart1e to keep taking these items, and CNZ is just taking up these nice positions from range and dealing damage, but Spart1e has got a good foothold now, and we know when Spart1e gets a foothold, he can keep the pressure up, and exactly what he does, hitting some good shots back to back and tying up the game.
Really important for Spart1e to get it back so quickly as well. Nice little delayed rocket there from CNZ, but it looks like he's going to need a little bit more as a more than healthy Spart1e chases it into it. Soaks it.
The trick with Spart1e is that he's quite similar to Tox. He's all about speed and momentum. He just loves to keep in your face. So if you can steal those items away and take up these nice defensive positions, he often struggles. And at the minute, CNZ was doing that from the outset, but now Spart1e's got control. He does time very well. CNZ is struggling, so he needs to recoup. Oh, wow.
And
These orbs
Spart1e,
have been fantastic.
yeah, especially that one where he was caught mid-weapon swap. That's the worst kind of time. You can often take opening damage and you just can't return it. But thanks to the orb usage, another tri-bolt. Spart1e, the tri-bolt and the orbs, his miracle weapons so far. A good rail. Both players at risk of going down. This time Spart1e gets another one. Man, this has been a frag-happy map. 7-3. We've only just hit 4 minutes. Madness. CNZ runs in.
Nice.
Can't match it. More good rockets from Spart1e.
I mean, this is the curse here was that because CNZ did some really nice damage, he thought, I can pressure this item, but without the weaponry, Spart1e just had a nice, strong position on the high ground, and CNZ was a sitting duck, and already he was 3-0 up only 2 minutes ago, and now he's 9-3 down. He needs to slow the tempo and somehow get back onto the board. That's a good start.
Oh, that good rail, though, to retreat.
Damage. Spart1e's done 3.5. He's done double damage to CNZ's damage so far. 3.2k. CNZ's done 1.6.
And now he's caught trying to retreat for another time. Spart1e looks for the rail. I mean, he had the right idea, just didn't quite get the shot on the end of that one. Spart1e's trying to be careful here, especially with this Mega. Can he shut down some of the use of the Mega just a little bit? CNZ trying to force his hand into the heavy right here to shut down some of these items. But it looks like Spart1e is not going to allow himself to be bullied away. He's sticking around maybe a little bit too long as CNZ picks up that rail, but he has a lot of work to do if he's going to bring this one back. Orbs ready to go. Rocket launcher potentially ready to take, but it looks like CNZ is trying to bait him into it. And Spart1e just listens out.
He knows where his opponent is. He knows it's such a vulnerable position where so often we see back-to-back spawn frags on this map. We saw CNZ succumb to it. So Spart1e, with the patience, it's such a simple thing, but we don't see enough players doing it regularly enough. CNZ is at critical mass though, full stack. So priority 1 is keeping control, priority 2 is forging an opening. He can really commit to a next engagement, but it's not always the best thing to do. You want your frags to be clean, and he's missed out on the Mega, trying to commit too much. He knows he's running out of time, but 4 minutes on this map is a long, long time. You need to keep your 101s going, make sure the items don't slip by, otherwise you're giving your opponent a good lifeline, which unfortunately he has done. Does catch Spart1e with the wrong weapon out in the banana room. And luckily he gets back another frag.
There's a big emphasis for CNZ to make sure he's hitting all of these range shots before the fight happens too. He knows the threat of the orb is often there. It's not going to be ready just yet though, because Spart1e did use it to escape previously, taking a lot of damage, and now those missed shots come out. It's time to back up a little bit. With this heavy in play, Spart1e, I mean, he's only not actually got a rocket launcher. I think he's just been able to take one. So there's not really much of an opportunity. That rocket was very, very good. And Spart1e can continue to play a little bit defensive while, I guess, almost in the same light, he too looks for those range shots. A couple of rockets that were just shy of hitting direct. CNZ taking so much damage himself, and now the orb is back. Spart1e tries, but maybe holds on to the orb a little bit too long. Either way, CNZ hits the frag, and he's in a perfect position to get the Mega.
But he can't hang around for this heavy either. Don't know if he has even timing on it, which is not a good state to be in. As we said, plenty of time remaining. CNZ's chipping away at this lead, 1 frag at a time. Big rocket coming out from the Swede. Doesn't want to commit though. He desperately needs a rail. That's been his linchpin weapon this entire map. CNZ can catch him here, but good rocket from Spart1e.
And Spart1e rockets have been immaculate the entire map. On the subject of rockets, CNZ is actually out of them, so he has to quickly go and get a little bit more of that. Thankfully, he's just been able to take it for himself, so rockets now in play. Spart1e quite weak. He has to be very information heavy there. How can we escape safely? Looks like he's been able to get out. 2 minutes on the clock, and Spart1e with a 3-frag lead. CNZ's in full control, looking a lot like Spart1e, kind of allowing it to happen at this point. He is not trying to fight for it. Has the LG ready, but I don't think it's going to really save him. It will not. Spart1e goes down again, 7-9. CNZ definitely has time to make this happen, and he gets a good shout near spawn. Spart1e's out though, with an LG in hand. He's been able to force himself towards Mega, but without any armor, that's going to shred, and shred it will be. Looking good.
We've seen this story before. Dahang versus Saigib feels very similar. Oh no, Spart1e dropping in, doesn't have a rocket though. This is dangerous. Missing all of his rails. Maybe shots he was hitting earlier in the match, the pressure's increased. He's not hitting them at this point in time.
Oh, he has the angle ready. Unfortunately, the angle might not help him much. That rail was unreturned. A big opening. CNZ just shy of being able to really tank one of these rails. 96. The armor's going to save him here.
Doesn't have a rocket though. This is not a good position to be in. If CNZ commits, he can't drop, which is why Spart1e's staying on the high ground. Just needed to hit that rail, which he does. Can he hit some exit damage? The answer is no. Spart1e knows he's got an angle to hit.
I'm nervous about Spart1e sticking around here.
He desperately needs a rocket. He really needs a rocket. Oh, I thought he waited too long. He's stuck.
But he's still trapped. He's still trapped, CNZ!
Spart1e!
But he's weak himself.
Oh my gosh.
That mega means that it might be a death sentence for Spart1e. The only question is, can he escape? There's 20 seconds on the clock.
Doesn't want to kill it to give his position away.
No, he's found him! The teleport's been used. Can he make chase? If Spart1e gets a defensive shot right now on CNZ, he can do it, but the totem in place means he's so healthy. 10 seconds. CNZ, he needs to find him. He's right behind him. Spart1e's running for his life. He uses the teleporter. CNZ, can he swap to the right weapon? Can he hit the rail? He needs to find him. No, he's found him! Oh, sudden death begins.
Why was there not a totem through the teleporter at any point during this game? Would have solved so many problems. Anyway, he does get the lead. He's got a huge stack. He wants to finish this game. He knows where Spart1e is. He gets the mega. Spart1e's in a world of pain here. CNZ would he swap to the rockets to finish it? Doesn't even need to. Easy rail. Unfortunate for Spart1e. CNZ kept his cool. The match got away from him there. And you can see the damage differential there. 2,000 more damage coming out from Spart1e, but 0 control. CNZ had all of the items to play with, and that's why Spart1e had to hit so many shots, which he did. But it wasn't enough without any items.
Just those final moments where, you know, all things considered, Spart1e was able to do a good job to survive as long as he did. It's just the thorough nature of CNZ. There was no stone left unturned, I guess, with all those things at the end. But it's the kind of match that, I mean, just rising to the occasion, CNZ was really able to do there. But tough call for Spart1e, though. That's the kind of map that will definitely make you feel a certain way. He was looking so good. Definitely felt a little bit like he was somewhat running out of steam as we went into the later stages. His rails and especially his rockets were phenomenal in the early stages. And then, just as we started to get later down the line, not having a rocket launcher, being out of weaponry compared to CNZ, it just didn't start to look as good, I suppose.
Felt like Spart1e lost his way a bit for the last 4 minutes, really. As you rightly said, didn't put enough emphasis on getting in the right positions, picking up the right weaponry, never made a presence on the items. And so, yes, he was hitting great shots, but he always had so much stack to work through to even get to a point where CNZ was killable. Got to remember as well, CNZ can also fall back on his totems, so he has that additional boost of health. There's just so much you have to do. And if you don't have your own stack, CNZ was able to kind of Terminator his way through the pain and just close Spart1e down. He was always taking fights with a significant amount of more stacks than Spart1e, and even though Spart1e was hitting like an absolute truck, it just wasn't enough.
Now we're going into our next match. We should be loading into it very, very soon. And it's going to be a classic one. It's going to be Blood Covenant, but it's going to be the Visor versus the Nyx. One of those original matchups from Quake Champions. We've seen it so many times. Obviously a little bit different now, thanks to Time Limit Duel, but CNZ rocking the Nyx, and it's going to be Spart1e on the Visor.
Yeah, and if Spart1e can keep up the same level of pressure, Nyx is always going to be in trouble. But if Spart1e lets the items go to Nyx, he's definitely going to be in trouble. So let's see, say it a lot, but what Spart1e's going to turn up, you know? If he hits his shots and plays the items, he will walk all over Nyx. If he does one or the other, he's going to be in a bit of trouble.
Just a bit nervous after that first map when he kind of ran out of steam there. I am, especially after a player like Spart1e has been historically can get, I think, a little bit flustered in some maps. We can kind of see it in the gameplay, and I mean, with how that first map fell apart from him, I'm not saying it's going to stick with him going into the next map because these top level players are able to treat it out on a map by map basis. But I do hope he has been able to kind of just shake that one off and go, right, next map. let's just go into it with a fresh experience, because that is the kind of map that will make you be like, oh, when you're this close, and with it being so close between these two players anyway on the leaderboard, just got to say 2-1 is the safe bet, but a 3-0 either side is very important indeed.
Yeah, but let's give credit to CNZ where credit's due. He played exceptional to keep the pressure on Spart1e and force him away from the items. He was always in position to pick them up early. But Spart1e definitely needs to be more proactive in securing these major items, which this is a perfect start for. He knows he's picked up and used the Ghost Walk and tries to get the pressure on, but he's now given them rail away.
Now, as CNZ runs between both of these items, the question is, what weapons was he able to pick up? The answer? Probably not much, as he only had a super shotgun there, and Spart1e was confident to push into that with a rocket.
There's also a good split on the items now, as obviously CNZ put a lot of pressure off the spawn. No Ghost Walk for a while. Spart1e will know that, having picked up all the time bars himself.
This entire time, Spart1e hasn't been able to get himself a rail either.
What are you doing, Spart1e? It's these moments of randomness that confuse me, but more often than not means Spart1e just loses out in key clutch moments. There was no reason for him to be pushing in there. The heavy is gone. He's known it's gone. He needed a rail. He needed so many other things.
Tricky for him to rocket jump when he only had 90 HP. Well, I guess closer to 99, but yeah, giving his position away while taking that much self-damage and getting a rail, not going to be worth it.
No, but equally jumping up into an open, exposed area when there's no item for you there is a bit weird as well. Either way, he needs to reset. The score is only 1-1. It's not game over by any means.
Got the Ghost Walk. Wait a minute.
He heard it, though.
He matches it.
Oh! Jump pad.
Okay.
He blocked him.
There's a chance for Spart1e to get the Mega at the very least. And now the rail in hand. The first time Spart1e's really been able to get... I think that's the first rail Spart1e's got all map. It took him 2 minutes to get it done. But now the rail comes out in full force as this heavy has spawned. Spart1e does choose to be aggressive. But now jumping down to get the heavy himself is not really something that's in his option anymore. It's not an option. CNZ looks for the rail. Spart1e really tries to push in there and get some damage and then maybe back off into the heavy, but it was not his choice to make anymore.
No, not at all. And already we're seeing Spart1e missing out on key major items there. Could have taken the heavy and perhaps got out. Maybe he would have taken a rail for his troubles, but at least survived. Instead, taking a much more riskier play of rocket jumping up. Not paying off for him at this point in time.
Nice patient rail there from CNZ. He'll take those extra couple of seconds if need be, just to make sure it's perfectly positioned. Both players incredibly weak, so taking this heavy, I mean, it's, yeah, risky on both ends. But I think he makes the right call. Oh, that
nice.
LG from Spart1e coming out of nowhere.
Is he feeling confident knowing his opponent didn't have a rail, but being as weak as he was, you've got to just be wary.
That's not a bad call from Spart1e. The fact he was able to get a rail too, without having to really push too far to get it. Good opening damage. Oh, that second rail. Absolutely beautiful shot there from Spart1e. Ghost Walk's used. CNZ knows. He was on borrowed time in that situation, but he's able to wait and get some good LG damage. Spart1e doesn't want to push too hard himself. He knows that he's not out of the woods yet.
Yeah, learning his lesson now. Probably that might have been the opportunity to push, but giving Nyx a lifeline, you never want to give Nyx a lifeline in reality.
That piercing sight. Here comes the extra information. You can tell CNZ's being patient himself, though. Going up against a visor, you have to be so careful of every corner that you take. You never know when the piercing sight's going to get popped unless you hear it.
Ghost walks back up, so CNZ's done his job. He can feel slightly more confident. Using those audio cues well to deal the initial damage to Spart1e. Also worked himself a good position to take this heavy.
Spart1e's doing a good job of staying on top of the damage at the very least. CNZ's kind of having a hard time returning this so far. And the thing for Spart1e is keep these items, keep CNZ weak enough that he's a bit timid to fight for these items, or at least make his presence known. Spart1e looking for the delays again. We know that Spart1e loves to delay items. Absolutely loves it. And hi, mate. Here I am. Now, what kind of... Yes. Yes, Spart1e. That's what I'm talking about. Man, I think he's playing full of confidence right now. You can see it in his accuracy. Piercing sights ready to go again. Just information. Looking for the tri-bolt. I think, yeah, CNZ, he's showing so much respect every turn. But he knows the piercing sight. Surely it's likely to be gone soon. Good rail. Ghost walk just to save his skin. Spart1e's going to make chase. A big push needed. Man. Really good shot, but he takes a rocket in the meantime. 73 health. Has to be very careful here. Heavy is in play. CNZ's not in a position to really do anything about it. Back to the information game. He hears the light. Spart1e knows what kind of fight he's in for. Oh, the Ghost Walk! That's probably the closest range direct I've ever seen. He is going to get it 4-2.
Spart1e's playing really well now. He's slowed the pace down. He's respecting the nicks a lot more. He's actually making sure he's keeping control of these time vials. He's had a lot more uptime on the piercing sight than Ghost Walk. And he's using that information incredibly well.
CNZ once more stuck in a really scary position. The fact he was able to match damage for damage in that situation, that is not normally a fight that you see someone actually win. It normally goes the other way around.
It was greedy and just poor execution from Spart1e. Might cost him another frag here. He's relatively weak, but CNZ's not going to risk it.
Now, piercing sights locked and loaded. Whole bunch of armors have been taken. There is that one light, so Spart1e will know that. Some great damage, and he just gets the finish on the machine gun. Good weapon choice.
That's what Spart1e's done exceptionally well all game, is recognizing his opportunity to make his pressure count when the Ghost Walk is not up. As soon as it's not up, you can see Spart1e have a huge uptick in tempo. And he just rushes his opponent. We can see here, he's not going to stop now. I mean, he hasn't stopped for 17 minutes of this game so far. Why would he stop now when his opponent's low? But he's been hitting his shots once again and doing a better job of making sure he gets the items. It's not been perfect, but it's been better.
That tri-bolt, I mean, information if anything, not that he didn't know he was there to begin with. Tries to go for a fly-by rail, doesn't quite hit its mark. But again, piercing sights locked and loaded. Spart1e's doing such a good job of shutting down these hourglasses for CNZ that he not only is he shutting down Ghost Walk, but he has so much more piercing sight.
And yeah, CNZ has been relegated to the lower channels of the map, and this is what I said. If Spart1e's hitting his shots and taking the items, CNZ's life's going to be pretty miserable. It has been pretty miserable so far.
Controlling that high ground, Mega's going to go to him again. If we're looking at the control alone, actually, you know, CNZ has had quite a substantial amount more heavies. Mega has been slightly in the favor of Spart1e with 3 more, but it's just all about keeping CNZ weak enough that I think he's just a bit more timid to make his presence known here. Another rail's going to miss, but that's with the piercing sights ready to go.
This is risky, Spart1e. This is risky, Spart1e. That was unnecessary. He took so much self-damage from the rocket jumps, and now he's forced himself onto back foot. With only a minute and a bit to play, why are you taking so many risks?
I mean, Spart1e's a risk taker, isn't he? It is the benefit and hindrance, for better or worse.
There's a time and a place, Sebastian, and that was not it. But he still has the lead, and there is only 1 minute to go. Switching up to CNZ, we can see he's got the stack, he's got all the items. He has to press go now. There is Ghost Walk up. He might be forced to use it aggressively, but he's found his opponent. He's trapped him. Should be able to get quite an easy frag here.
Unless Spart1e can get some absolutely miracle defensive shots. And the piercing sight's being used to save him. Watch out! The rail angle was given up and CNZ misses it. That is
How has Spart1e got away with that?
Tragic shot to miss. Because it's the time to recharge now. Spart1e getting away, and now a lot of opportunities to move around, keep this high ground, make it hard for CNZ to chase him. That is one rail, but he needs a lot more than that. The stack difference isn't going to help him if he can't find him. Less than 20 seconds on the clock in CNZ. Even if he gets a frag here, you know Spart1e's going to delay.
And this is it.
GG's.
Good game.
GG's.
GG Spart1e.
Nice. GG. I mean, look, that's morale boost, if anything. The manner, not just the fact that he got the map win, but it's how he got it. Not even that final, bonus frag near the end. It was how well Spart1e played, how in charge he was of that map, even down to, that surprise moment. Spart1e typing in chat and feeding himself. Like, it's an important morale boost.
Once again, it felt like Spart1e was hugely in control, and yet the items favored CNZ. So for me, the basics, unlike most other players for Spart1e, it's do the basics and perhaps refrain from being so eccentric all the time. I know that's what makes him great and that's what wins him games, but I think it is finding that slightly more rounded approach. Like the double rocket jump across the map with a minute to go when you're in the lead is not the way to close out a game. But it is hugely entertaining. That's why I love watching Spart1e. He's just an amazing player, and is incredibly scary. Like, it's when he finds his form and he times well, and he does those basics and doesn't make these mistakes, you can see why he can take series from the very best players, and you can also see why he loses them. So you just want to, sometimes you just want to throttle him and say, don't do that, but I don't want to do that because he's too fun to watch.
It's the actually almost like similar to a Tox, where I think being a Spart1e fan too can be quite a stressful experience. But now we go into our final map, which is going to be Strog and Pika versus the Ison on Molten Falls. I don't want to talk about CNZ and Molten Falls any more than already hasn't been talked about to death. But it's a map that we see him play on a lot. And I mean, we're in a 1-1 situation now. I know we talked about the importance of a 3-0. Not going to happen. Someone's going to win, though. And with both players being so close together on the leaderboards, we'll just see who can get that last-minute victory, if anything.
Yeah, going off picks alone, I'm going to favour the Strog. Going off eccentricness and stability, going to favour CNZ, but I think it's going to be close.
Looks like we're loading into the map now. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Remember, get involved in social media if you can. Use the hashtag Quake Pro League. Let us know on Twitter who you want to win, who your favorite players are, and all that good stuff. We'd love to hear from you. As we now load into our final map of Series 3. I mean, again, just to bring everyone back, we're in Week 8 now. We don't have many of these weeklies left, and these are two players that are absolutely near the chopping block. So any wins they can get will be better than nothing. It's not going to be a 3-0, which I think is going to be unfortunate either side, because that giant point boost and the opportunity to clearly surpass would have been happily taken. But someone still has to finally take a win in this stage, and it's going to be either Spart1e or CNZ, as now we check out Spart1e first. You did mention that you think the Strog favors this a little bit more thanks to that mobility, but it will depend on how the start of things go. CNZ sitting near the ledge, one Ron Rocket there would have resulted in a ring out, but not today. Ooh, that one hurt. On the retreat now. Quite a few of these lights have already been soaked up, and I think CNZ knows it. He uses this opportunity to push in. So many lights have already been taken, and CNZ chases it down. Good rail. And that's a 1-0.
Really nice opening from CNZ. And this is definitely a map you can slow the pace down and play your angles, and that's where CNC really comes to shine. Also, having a slightly heavier champion than the Knicks now means he's got more fluff to fall back on and is not as vulnerable to the pressure of Spart1e. So as we saw on the first map of today on Awoken, that he can really make that count if he maintains good control, which he has done all series long. Smiley face.
Smiley face. All right, mate.
Smiley's feeling himself. Oh, nearly got bounced into his oblivion, but he's going to drop.
Minimal damage on the rockets.
But his rockets have been very much hit and miss all day and not doing quite enough damage for that engagement to make it worth it.
CNZ, the turret, is going to be able to give him that extra information if need be. These larger maps, and knowing that your turret's firing off somewhere is going to be a little bit more information than you otherwise would have. Speaking of which...
Oh, he's very early for the Omega. I don't think he knows it's been delayed.
Oh, that really unfortunate miss. The Pika has been able to quite sufficiently stack. I actually like the positioning there from Spart1e to use the Pika to shut it down while he jumps down, knowing Heavy's going to get taken. Nice little move there. Oh, looks for the rail. Misses it narrowly as CNZ barely escapes with his life. Stack difference definitely going to favor Spart1e here. As he's cycling around, not the first time CNZ seems to have lost track of him. These fast champions, you can easily lose sight of where someone is. More of this defensive play, plenty of rockets in the tank. CNZ is able to deny the heavy from Spart1e. Spart1e missing quite a few rails, it has to be said. Hasn't been the most accurate on them so far. Actually, 0 and 6 on his rails so far, just double checked. More of that patient play. Spart1e might be a little bit too predictable there. I think CNZ hitting that rail, and the moment that rail hit, he knew Spart1e was going to look for the light. Spart1e has been able to take it. I fear that, again, a little bit too likely to run towards it as CNZ punishes him for the same read just twice in a row.
Yeah, it was just a lack of patience. Spart1e really could have played that out and forced CNZ to commit for the Mega and then got away and potentially stole away the Heavy. But instead, losing his cool, losing his patience, and unfortunately, losing his life.
3.5 minutes on the clock, just about to be ticked down, though. Plenty of time for Spart1e to do something. But the constant 2v1 factor really does force you to make a choice. What's more important for you to shoot sometimes? Ah, good rail, and an even better one knocking him into the jump pad. That was a death sentence. Hate getting knocked into a jump pad. Yeah, hate it. Oh, speed boost. From this position, I really want to start seeing Spart1e hit a few more of those crucial rails, because he's consistently in position to land them too. His use of Strog's movement has been great, and now catching one on retreat! You're used to seeing potential ring outs on Molten, but probably not there.
CNZ corner. This is where we can see Spart1e coming into his own, the speed unlocking his high potential aggressive play.
He's got plenty of rockets
to adjust
too.
His aim to that new speed as well, as you rightly said, not hitting anywhere as much as he was on previous maps so far. CNZ, you can see, very much under the cosh here, having to slow the pace down. Very much so, playing these corridors, these choke points. Obviously that's where you want to take these engagements, but it definitely needs to be more proactive in the mid-game. That turret!
Oh, and it's not enough. Really betting everything on the Pika. That was a 2v2 in every capacity. Turret versus Pika versus Strog versus Ison. 5 minutes now gone down. Half of it left. And I think that from this situation, Spart1e means he's been able to take a rail, so there's no need to take any more. When he thinks it's safe to pick up the light, just any chance to shut down that information. Good opening rail. It's going to be returned, though, by CNZ. This time, Spart1e's weak. And this is the opportunity. Wait, no! The turret, get away! Right as CNZ managed to hit that rail, Spart1e disengaged and went right into a turret. Thankfully, he was able to get rid of it, but that could have been a disaster. CNZ with so much more stack and in position towards heavy. Looking like Spart1e's going to really just have to concede it so far. There's a big delay between the two items. And CNZ just listening out. Here's a light get taken.
Spart1e's not been able to pressure major items or hasn't made an effort to, so CNZ is sitting very pretty right now. And he's under no pressure to make anything happen. He's quite happy playing his rotation and playing slow. Spart1e seems relatively clueless as to when any of the items are, at least doesn't seem to care about putting pressure on when he definitely needs to hit some shots to try and whittle that stack down, because he's not going to be able to take an engagement. Nice use of the Pika, really nice damage.
And to waste time right before Mega spawns. Kind of getting the best of both worlds, but a very aggressive push from Spart1e's going to work out. Confident in his play, and I mean the confidence pays off there.
Yeah, confidence is one word for it.
I won't ask you what else you'd use. Another Pika. Coming back instantly. Feels like he only just used it. Of a tricky fight towards Mega, though, position-wise for Spart1e. Not a lot of avenues for him to really hit much damage. We're going to back off again and shut things down. Hang on, CNZ looking. He was looking towards Teleporter. He was a second shy of being correct. But now the turret's in play. Going up this Teleporter is going to be really difficult, but then so is going to be just tunneling in towards Heavy to try and shut it down. CNZ really fortifying that place to get the Heavy. I like that. Made it tricky for Spart1e, who quite rightly is being patient. Oh, there's some rockets, though. Really needed that rail to land to stop CNZ's advance. He pushes in big time towards Mega, and now Spart1e kind of stuck in no man's land. Tries to go in for a Pika, but that's not really going to do anything. That missed rail led him to overstay his welcome.
And I think this is epitomizing the highs and lows of Spart1e, missing, as you rightly say, a pretty clutch rail in initial engagement, and then 2 to 3 rockets that just did not connect, and CNZ was able to pressure his opponent into dust, and Spart1e will go down again here, not doing anywhere near enough damage just before the Mega spawns as well, so it's all pretty null. And CNZ now is in a very commanding position to take this series 2-1, and the Spart1e can hit some absolutely bonkers shots. That's not the start he needs, and he needs to make something happen quickly. Again, he's lost all sort of track of items, and CNZ is already set up for this and will take another frag, but it is neutral. That is the best Spart1e could have hoped for.
But now as they start things off, we have 2 minutes left. Spart1e got a good spawn. He's completely covered in ammo and a little bit of that extra health. Right, the turret's been taken down. Spart1e, what does he do with this? He's so lacking in weapons, though. I mean, rockets are all he has, and CNZ knows that. He knows he can just simply push this one down, and he gets the rail to finish. He had a decent amount of stack, and, I mean, loads of rockets, I guess, but with rockets being his only weapon, CNZ had nothing to fear down there.
Yep, and I think as you said earlier, like, the problem is that the way Spart1e's played this series in particular is all about aim, it's all about flair, it's all about pressure. And for maps 1 and 2, that was fine because he was hitting his shots. He didn't focus on the items, he didn't really need the items. He would have benefited from the items, but still didn't really need them. Whereas on this map, he didn't focus on the items and he didn't hit his shots. And so CNZ, for the first time this series, is out-damaged Spart1e, and Spart1e's lost. He definitely needs to focus on just the fundamentals. If Spart1e was taking the items, he would have had much more of a chance. He wouldn't have been under so much pressure to hit his shots. So yeah, it was clinical maps 1 and 2, and this one was much less so.
And the turret had the last laugh there. The GGs are going to come in. A 2-1 to finish things with CNZ coming off just a little bit better. And, I mean, considering the fact that CNZ was on the leaderboards itself lower than Spart1e, it's a victory I think he'll happily take.
Yep, it doesn't shift obviously around ever so much, but relieves a little bit of pressure for CNZ down there in 18th. As you rightly said, he's been struggling a little bit this season to get points to move out of the relegation zone. So fiddling with a little bit more confidence. I think he was slightly fortunate that Spart1e slipped up a bit in terms of his overall strategy on map 1 to take that map away. I think Spart1e had it in his locker to win that, but all credit to CNC for keeping his composure, keeping his strategy on point, and he did what he needed to do to win this. Not much more to say. It was cool and calm from CNC from start to finish.
And for Spart1e, extreme highs and extreme lows. I mean, his extremist high was the second map, where he played absolutely fantastic. There was a lot of confidence there too, and just all round looking good, right? And then, unfortunately, that final map, there was, I think, shades of it and signs of it, but not enough consistency. And consistency is something that you will get from CNZ, that's for sure. Like, we talk about players that are very disciplined, and CNZ is one of those 1000%. And Yeah, Spart1e just not able to, I think, maintain that high stride and just fell short at the last minute. Just a couple of plays that didn't quite go to plan, some missed shots, some rails that were missed at the start of things when he had opportunities, some rockets in fights where just somehow it felt like he'd fired like 4 rockets and did like 30 damage. Just the kind of stuff that you wouldn't normally expect. Just disaster, striking on more than one occasion for poor old Spart1e. But I mean, a 2-1 was the safe bet. Either way was hard to call, and Spart1e just having misfortune and CNZ capitalizing and playing really well.
Everything about Spart1e's play just feels hectic and a bit chaotic, as you say. Like some fights he would go into and just absolutely hit everything, and other fights he would go into and hit nothing. Then he would take all items and then he would just leave all items up. He's all just a little bit erratic. And so we just, as you rightly said, just need to find some level of consistency in his play. And he really becomes a force to reckon with, because as we saw, he hit some unbelievable shots. It does incredible amounts of damage, probably more than like most players on the planet in terms of duel. But sometimes the basics do let him down.
So that was going to be series number 3 of the day. We're now going to be going into number 4. So as always, we're going to cut to a small break. Thank you for staying with us so far. This is week 8, stage 4, Quake Pro League. We'll be right back.